Hi, and welcome to this video. The topic of today is how do you read the Figaf Migration Assessment and use it in a way to understand what you can migrate and what you cannot migrate. So there's a lot of customers that are going to migrate from SAP PI PO to Integration Suite, and there's a lot of things that influence how you can manage such projects. So the Figaf assessment, this is a tool that would allow you to understand where you are in the landscape and give you an idea of what you have and give you the ability to decide what can be migrated and give you and allow you to add some estimate of the effort. We will not, and then the purpose of this this topic is not to give you the migration effort of your migration is going to be 253 days. That is not gonna work. I guess you would probably more end up with a ballpark or some based on some assumptions. How do you create this document? It is fairly simple. You just go to figaf.com, download the jar, or sign up for the free trial, download the jar. Run this on your system, your laptop or PC. It requires a Java 8 to run. Then you enter the licensing detail into the tool. You create a new PI agent. You go in and go to tracked objects, performance synchronization, where all of the data from your PI system will be downloaded to your PC. And then on that PC, you can then create this report, and it is just to go to the tracked testing page, tracked objects, and then you can create the report. And let me just show you what this report looks like when it has been created on our system. So obviously this will likely be different. We have a system with a lot of detail on, and some things that are made just to break things to test what is going on. It works both on a dual and a single stack systems, collect receiver on determinations, ICOs, etc. And yeah, from the Figaf tool, you go here to the Agents tab, you create a new agent, PI, give it the name of your PI system, your username, password for it, and then you go to tracked objects, press synchronize, skip the data type. A lot of companies have a lot of data types in, so if you synchronize them to the local PC, it will take a little extra time. It's not critical, but they are not really used in the migration perspective. And then you can click on this on the integration object page, select the same agent. Here you can then go and create the PI agent report. You can select what data do we want to use for the last month. Do you want to use the current or the last month? And normally I would select the current month. Now it's the 11th, so probably I'll start using the current month. Otherwise, until the 10th, I would use the last month. And the details here is the runtime information that we have from this. Okay, let's go back to the slide. So how do you read it? So one of the things you obviously need to understand is how this is written. So one ICO can have multiple, or receiver can have multiple different receivers. That means that each of these will correspond to one message. And you need to consider this as a part of your migration strategy, because each receiver, sender-receiver combination is something unique that you need to consider. Some of them can be collapsed, some of them is duplicates, etc. But you need to take a consideration for this. So let's just find a place where we have this. So here we have this number, and this just gives us a way to understand what's going on. And if we just scroll down, we can see here the 14 is 2 times. This is Figaf dual stack, whatever this interface is. on the sender side, this is identical. Then we have a receiver where one is getting the orders and one is getting orders header mapping. And we can see it gets two different interfaces, two different mappings, and then we have not processed anything on this one. Here, for instance, we can see that it has been processed. This interface has processed some data. I guess the first thing you want to do is probably to go here and you want to go into the filter, add filter. That will make it easier for you to understand what is going on. So we have the number. This is just the account of the number of ICOs that you have on the system, and we can see here we have 221, and we do have 400 receiver-sender combinations in total. Then the next, you have the ICO as a key for this. We have a scenario type. Here we do try to understand what scenario this is. It's not perfect, so you will see sometimes when you have undefined, this is, if we have not added logic to determine which adapter it is. I think the most important you will get from this one is the one that is async sync bridge exactly once an order. Those are the ones that has a large impact on your migration efforts. Because sync async bridge should be pretty easy to migrate. Sync async is a little more challenging because that is not something that the CPI system will handle with ease. But there's going to be a lot of undefined, and this is just we have not added the logic to determine what patterns these are. Then you have sender partner, receiver system, and system. You have the channel, sender channel name. You have the adapter type, and you have the modules that is being used for this. And I think we also have the message protocol over here. And the idea is a lot of times you will go create a pivot table. So insert pivot table from all of this data. That's probably okay, in a new sheet, and then you will put in sender partner, system channel, adapter configuration. No, that's not adapter configuration. We need adapter protocol and message protocol. And then maybe modules as a way to deal with this, and then we will just add a account in here, which will give us some ideas about the different scenarios that we are using. We should probably refine this a little bit to understand what is actually required and where we have duplicates. And you do the same thing for the receiver and also fetch some data there. Some of those, so if we remove these partners, we get a understanding of the sender channel. Maybe we want to remove that one. Then we get a number of different file adapter, file CSVs, content conversion. So this is a good way to understand the landscape to set up and figure out how to deal with these things. And there is going to be omissions that we have not taken into consideration. So it is our best guess at something that would be useful for this. Next up is we have the mapping information. So on the sender we do have sender adapter configuration. This is really useful to see where it is, how this is configured. Is it file FTP? Where does it pick up the data, etc.? Are there any systems involved here that looks strange, etc.? Then we have the content. Here we do have the operation mapping, and then we have the message mapping. And here we can see it also contains the Java and so why do we have both a Java and a class? That is a bit strange. I would have imagined that there is at least a Java mapping in place here. We also have a normal message mapping for this, a lot of message mapping. So here we have a Java mapping that we need to check out. So the idea here is that you would go through all of these different mappings, see are there any things that is relevant for this migration scenario. You have a fixed, or here you have the different function libraries that we're using for this. And this is just for all the different method mapping in this flow. These are the contents that we're using for this. And then you need obviously to collapse this and figure out what are the different function libraries that we're using. Are there any of those that could pose a challenge when doing migration? We have added a column here with some of the things that we have known or figured out. There's something about the multi-mapping that obviously impact how you define the flow. There is parameters that can be a challenge in some migration tools. In ours it is included. There's RFC lookups. You need to know that it is using RFC or some other channel SOAP adapter lookup, and those are the ones that you need somehow to configure. We have these. How do we handle this? For instance, for RFC lookups in the Figaf tool, we will just create an empty shell inside of the same mapping, and then you can implement the functionality for that. Then we have the receiver system on it, receiver information, where we have the same data, and then up here we do have the test cases. If we have created test cases for this, this is when you start to migrate, and then we have runtime information that we have tried to match as well as possible. So I think as in default, you will not capture, the system will not capture synchronous data about what scenario has been processed. We can see that there are some errors on some of these and other problems. I guess we should probably not have the holding, etc. And delivering. Well, there's something out here which is a bit strange. Cancel with errors. Fair enough. That's also some okay thing. But at least this will give you a good understanding of what you can do with it. Create some pivot tables. So we covered that you need to look at the sender and receiver adapter to understand what's going on here. Because yeah, the first time you connect to a new receiver, it will take some longer time. The second time, it's not really as challenging. Then you need to find out if there are some interfaces that are no longer used. So it could either be, I've seen some customer that had duplicated all the flows, and instead of sending them to the receiving system, just send it to a backup system. Those should obviously not be migrated. For some of the adapter modules, they do not really. So if you have the, let's see what we have here of adapter modules. So we have dynamic content bean. Probably that's not going to be a big thing for us. EDI converter is something that has a big impact. That's going to be a bit challenging. For now, we do not support B2B mapping. It is obviously one of the things we need to add together with some customers that are going through this process. Message logger bean is not really important either. Yeah, just adding multiple different lines here for each of these message transformation beans. But yeah, these are the ones that will be, you need to look into to see, are they important? And this, you'll do the same for the receiving side. To see which you have and what is of importance here. So decrypt, encrypt. Some of those may be easier, some of them may be more challenging. And then, yeah, you need to find the problem places that could cause problems. So the way I would look at this for any systems would be, okay, so you can consider, are there any pre-delivered content for this scenario? That is something that would take significant longer, I guess, in a lot of scenarios, to go from a fixed or an integration that works for most scenarios to some pre-delivered content, because you need to enable, configure, manage this. But I guess in the long run, that would save you some time to have a scenario maintained by the SAP that just works. So that is something you need to consider in this setup. And I guess you can use the sender receiver and the interface name to see, okay, so what type of business objects do we send between the different systems, and based on that say, okay, we have SAP to success factors, employee master data. There's probably a pre-delivered content for those things. There's a lot of things you'd not find for, and there's probably something that would not be simple. But yeah, I think that would be the challenging part. There's also going to be some decision where you think, okay, would be better if we redesign this, either part of it or a larger flow, and obviously that is going to be the challenging part. What would be a difference? And obviously, when I talk here, this is with Figaf tool. There is some other limitations with the SAP tools, like parameters, like function libraries at the moment. They will be enhanced. So EDI setup is obviously something that currently is not supported by any tool. But I guess it should be somewhat simple to implement that. We have some adapters that work differently or does not exist. Salesforce, custom adapters, JDBC, that you may find that they work in a different way. And when you're doing the migration, you need to take these into consideration. So I would guess that if you do have a file adapter, it is pretty easy to just expose that file endpoint to FTP, secured FTP in some way, and then use the cloud connector to connect to that. And then once you've done that you do not need to make it a lot of other places. So there's a lot of standard tools to just expose these shares in a secure way. So we talked about the adapter modules. You need to go into those. Java mappings, I think this should be fairly simple to migrate this. There's obviously a little difference about how much of the dynamic attributes that you'd be using in these. Some of them would require a lot of rework. Others would just say, okay, take the code and put it in a new wrapper and you're good to go. There is ABAP mappings is obviously a challenge, so those would need to be re-implemented. Or considered what to do. The ABAP XSLT, I guess, should be somewhat simple, but would not be supported with it. You have patterns, like exactly once an order, async bridges that will pose a challenge to these things. And then obviously BPM and CC BPMs, if you're on all systems, and BRMs is something that is not supported with the new scenario. And we have talked with a lot of companies that have different EDI management tools that will make some of these scenarios a little more complex. So if you have some kind of framework around that, you need to consider, okay, how do we migrate this onto the platform? But hopefully these are exposed as a part of this assessment. So for the BPMN, I guess this is something about it is using the XI adapter to point to a local system. But there is no simple way to identify at least the BPM. And I guess that you would have something with the async if you're on a dual stack system. And then you would have some scenarios. So for the on-prem scenarios, if you're on the integration want that, you'll need to wait until the integration cell it is pretty close, as I understand. But obviously we need to understand what this can do and how this would work in your landscape. Yeah, we talked about the Excel is probably the place you want to be using this, those filters, those pivot tables. You can also feed this into your favorite BI tool and do different analysis on this. So the estimation that depends a lot on your framework, what you know about what would be possible, which tool you're using for migration, how you're handling all of these things, and yeah, based on the previous what can and what cannot be migrated, you need to consider factors like the organization, your skills, ambition, and then the redesign requirement. I would also consider, look at, what are the things that's easy to migrate, but so in the report we will not be able to collect everything. So it could look like this ICO is easy to do, but on the subs, once you work on it, you find out that it is too challenging to actually do this. And this is one of the challenges with such a migration. There is going to be something that we do not catch in this, but hopefully you have some buffer to support these scenarios. I do recommend that you do, as a part of your evaluation, spend some time on understanding this assessment, perform 10 at least migration of some of the different scenarios that you think is going to be a big part of your landscape and migration, and then evaluate the tools and check out how to do testing, the transport, because the migration, taking one ICO and converting to an iFlow is one thing. The bigger thing is everything around it. How do you actually handle this setup? And yeah, there's a lot of tools that will help you here, and the Figaf is one of those things. But yeah, the idea was just to create this assessment and give you an idea about this. So today we just covered this assessment, giving you some ideas about how you can use this and what this would mean as a part of your delivery process. We do have our free migration edition that would allow you to create this, that will collect test data and run iFlows. It will give you an ability to manage your migration. And then later on, you can try out, there's a trial of the migration, there's a trial of all the DevOps capabilities that will be really useful when working with this SAP migration project. So bear in mind that with the Figaf tool, you do have a lot of other capabilities as a part of it. And then when we talk about this, we do have the migration edition. This is free for 12 months. It allows you to do testing, and it allows you to create the assessment and create the overview as we have here. So really recommended to get started with this. You can run it in SAP BTP Cloud Foundry. It contains a trial of the two other capabilities, which is the ICO migration and the DevOps capabilities that will make it easier for you to deliver the integrations. So that was what I wanted to cover. I hope you go to figaf.com, sign up, create this assessment, and have a look at how this performs for your own systems. Thank you.